So you clicked on this wondering what is going to be the pros and cons of rural Oklahoma. Well, this channel, it's all about Oklahoma. And this video is about rural Oklahoma. So if that's something you want to learn about and you want to know the pros and cons about, stick around, because that's what I'm going to talk about. All right, hey, thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. If you didn't already know it, my name is Josh Barnett. I'm a real estate agent with eXp Realty, the group of agents that I work with, and I make these videos to help consumers and customers just like you learn everything they can about Oklahoma when they're moving to, relocating to, or moving within. So if that's something you're interested in, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, because that's what I'm always talking about. I also do video tours of neighborhoods, video tours of houses, pros and cons, different city versus blah, 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 blah. The group of agents that I work with at eXp Realty, we want to earn your business. So don't forget to reach out to us when you're making your next move. Now, let's get into the pros and cons of rural Oklahoma. Living, the pros and cons of living in rural Oklahoma. Little background on the word rural. Its Latin origination was rus or rural. See? That much smarter now. Okay, pro number one, you don't have to deal with a lot of people. You don't have to deal with a ton of traffic. You don't have to deal with a ton of anything because there's less people. So pro number one, less people. Con number one, you gotta drive a little bit to get your groceries, to visit the hospital if you have an emergency, like cut your finger off while you're building a table for the backyard. Now in Oklahoma, if you look at it as a whole in a big area, you can usually get to your local hospital, your local grocery store in 30 minutes to 40 minutes. 30 minutes to 40 minutes is about the furthest you have to drive when you're living in the main 5 counties in central Oklahoma. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about, God, it's gonna take me forever to get to my groceries or stuff like that. Well, no, not actually. It's only gonna take about 30 minutes to 45 minutes to go do your grocery shopping. But the whole reason that you move to rural is to get away from everything. But con number one, if you're living in rural areas, it's gonna take a while to get there. Okay, pro number two, and you guys who love the 4th of July, like this channel loves America, are really gonna love pro number two. Typically, in most of your rural towns, you get to shoot fireworks on your 4th of July. Can you do that in your city towns? No. They're all like, you can't be American. You can't shoot fireworks in them city towns in Oklahoma, but you sure can in the rural ones. So pro number two is you're able to shoot fireworks in most your city town. All right, con number two. Con number two of rural towns is sometimes most of your rural towns, they're working on the water a lot. I mean, at least once a month. If you're living inside the rural town, they're typically shutting down different sections of the water and replacing old water meters, or they're fixing leaks or anything like that in the town. So that's something you want to pay attention to. They usually put notices out on the Facebook pages for the cities or things like that, but definitely get your showers in early before the city workers get in to potentially be working on water that day, because they do in the rural towns work on water quite a bit if you're on the city water system. Pro number three, when living in rural towns, it's kind of the opposite of con number two. Is you typically, when you live in a rural town, a rural city, you're on your own well and septic. You're on your own well and septic, and that's a huge positive because you've got well water. I mean, that's wonderful. And the septic system, you're not paying for water and sewer. That's gonna save you $50 a month at least when you're not living inside the city, because you're handling your own water delivery and you're handling your own sewer. So when you're pro number three, when living in rural Oklahoma, is you're typically on your own water and septic systems. Con number three is typically you got to pay for a fire insurance plan, a fire plan through the local fire department, especially if you live outside of the rural city limits, because there's not a ton of money for those volunteer fire departments. So a lot of your rural towns in Oklahoma, they have volunteer fire departments. They don't have paid, the fire service isn't covered by everyone's utility bills, real estate taxes, stuff like that in rural Oklahoma like they are in the cities. So you do have to pay about $75 to $150, maybe $180 sometimes in different rural areas of Oklahoma to ensure you have fire service. So con number 3 is paid fire service. Pro number 4, when living in rural Oklahoma, typically, if you have 5 acres, 10 acres, 20 acres, a large amount of acreage, when you're living in rural Oklahoma, you don't have anyone telling you can't shoot your guns. So that's a huge positive when you're talking about pro number 4. You get to shoot your guns. But you have to really pay attention when you're buying rural land in Oklahoma, especially if you're buying in what is like a rural neighborhood, because there may be deed restrictions that say you can't actually shoot your firearms. So pay attention to that. You still want to take advantage of pro number 4 by being able to shoot your guns in rural Oklahoma. But if you're in a neighborhood-ish like development place where there's still 5-acre tracts, so you feel like you got a lot of land, but there may be deed restrictions stopping that. So pay attention. Con number 4, when living in rural Oklahoma, internet service. There's just no way around it. If you're in rural Oklahoma, you typically have horrible internet service. When I lived in one rural town, I only had 1 up and 10 down. 1 up and 10 down. That was horrible. A small little 12-minute video would take sometimes 4 or 5 hours just to upload. So I would just save to upload till I went to like Oklahoma City libraries or something like that, and I'd get it uploaded there. So I'd have to wait till I got to Oklahoma City and I'd stop by one of the libraries and upload my videos there when I was dealing with rural internet. Now I'm in a different rural town right now and I have 4 up, so that is a lot better, but a 30-minute video takes about 2 hours to upload if I do a 30-minute video, just so you know. But as far as download speed goes, even when I just had 10 down, I was still able to watch plenty of movies and things of that nature. I wasn't able to watch any 4K streaming movies through Amazon Prime when I had 10 down, but I was able to watch all the standard def movies. When the new place that I'm living at now, it has 30 down, and I've never had any hiccups with the down speed on that. It's line of sight though. It's line of sight. When I had 1 up and 10 down, it was connected through a telephone cable, and now I have line of sight internet, so my internet feeds off of a radio transponder on the town's water tower, and it goes so if I have anything in front of my receiver, then I don't have service because something's blocking the signal. So that's something to think about. I have signed up for Starlink and I'm waiting for them to say that I get it, but I don't have it yet. And that's that's con number 4 when living in rural Oklahoma. Pro number 5 when living in rural Oklahoma is it is a community. It is a community. Yesterday on the Facebook page for the town that I live in currently, there was someone saying, hey, this one lady needs help mowing her lawn because she's 92 and she doesn't have her mower broke or something along those lines. And all sorts of people were jumping on real quick. Hey, we'll help. Hey, we'll help. Hey, let us know if they don't get to it, we'll get to it. So there is a huge sense of community when it comes to helping each other out when living in rural Oklahoma. Now, of course, you know, every situation is different. Every neighbor is different, but it does have a stronger sense of community in the smaller towns, in my experience, in my opinion. When I lived in Edmond, I never felt like I felt like I lived in Edmond, but I didn't feel like all my neighbors would bring me dinner or brownies or stuff like that, if that makes sense. And same thing in Oklahoma City. In Oklahoma City, it's just, we were all living there, but there wasn't a community, if that makes sense. So pro number 5 is the sense of community. Con number 5, when living in rural Oklahoma, there's dirt and gravel roads. So what that means is the delivery drivers, they stir up a bunch of dust. And since you're in rural Oklahoma, you're usually last on the line. So they've been going up and down, or you're somewhere on the line. You might not be last on the line, but the delivery drivers, they've been going up and down dirt roads. Their trucks just have open cabs, and so that stirs up a ton of dust. So by the time you get your packages, they're covered in Oklahoma red dirt. They're covered in Oklahoma red dirt. So you might find yourself taking a wet rag and wiping down your packages before you take them in. And that's even if you take them in. You might just be opening them up on the front porch, taking the contents into the house and not the actual boxes. So if you use a lot of Amazon Prime, you use a lot of Walmart delivery services, you're gonna get dusty packages. And I mean, like you hit them on the ground and the dust falls off. So that's con number 5. So today's video is kind of short. I just wanted to be able to get something out about rural Oklahoma real quick. Please like it. If you're thinking about living in rural Oklahoma, these will be some things that you hadn't thought about that you will need to keep in mind when living in rural Oklahoma. So be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, share with any of your friends that you know that are moving to Oklahoma, that are thinking maybe I want to live in rural. This will give them a quick little pros and cons video about if they should be doing that or not. And then, as of course, we're always expanding our real estate team. If you've ever thought about a career in real estate, whether you want to start part-time or start full-time, let us know. We'd love to talk with you about the mentorship program that we offer the agents. So come on and start helping us when helping people buy or sell houses and land. All right, guys, Josh Barnett, eXp Realty. I'll see you guys on the next clip. And don't forget, I've got some videos popping up right here, and I've got a little subscribe button right here. So we'll see you on the next clip. At the gas station, you don't... Guys, you gotta be quiet. You gotta be quiet, okay? You gotta be quiet.